I never thought I'd be sitting here recounting this tale, but life has a way of throwing curveballs that leave you reeling. I'm Mark, a 32-year-old gamer and husband to Lisa, who's 30 and at times a real piece of work. We'd been together for over 6 years, married for 3. You'd think that after such time you'd know your partner inside and out, but that was far from the truth. In the beginning, things were great. We bonded over gaming, shared nerdy interests, and even had a few mutual friends. Lisa always had a fiery personality. One minute she was sweet and loving, and the next she'd be spitting fire over the tiniest things. I remember once, we had a minor argument about dinner plans, and she went off on me like I'd committed a crime against humanity. Still, I loved her. I thought it was just her passion for life. But over the months leading to what I'll just call the incident, I noticed subtle changes. Lisa began spending more time working late and less time gaming with me. Initially, I just brushed it off. Maybe she was putting in extra hours to get a promotion at her job. I didn't want to be that paranoid husband, but deep down, something felt off. There were days when she wouldn't come home until after midnight, and when she did, she was distant, almost like she didn't want to be around me. My gut told me something was wrong. I tried to ignore it and focus on my own projects. I was working on leveling up my own gaming channel, hoping to build a community. Lisa used to be my biggest supporter, but now she barely paid attention to my latest streams. It stung, but I kept telling myself to be patient. We'd get through this. Then came the day that shattered everything. I was in the living room editing a video when I heard her phone buzz on the table. Ordinarily, I wouldn't snoop, but I noticed the name flashing on the screen, Jake. My heart sank. Jake was my gaming buddy, a guy I'd known for years and someone I thought I could trust. They had never really interacted before, but in my gut, a storm was brewing. I hesitated, staring at the phone. I picked it up, my hands shaking. The message preview read, "Can't wait to see you. Tonight, just you and me." I felt the world tilt under my feet. Part of me wanted to toss the phone aside and pretend it didn't happen. But the other part, the part that was fed up with the distance and lies, urged me to dig deeper. I opened her messages. The more I read, the more my stomach twisted. It was a whirlwind of flirty texts, plans that didn't include me, and promises that made my skin crawl. The evidence was overwhelming. They'd been seeing each other for months. I could feel the blood rushing to my head, a mix of disbelief, rage, and an all-consuming sadness. I confronted her that night. I waited for her to come home, rehearsing my words for what felt like hours. Lisa walked through the door, her face lighting up until she saw mine. I didn't waste time. I threw her phone on the table and demanded to know the truth. Her reaction was just as I'd feared. She didn't deny it at first. Instead, she tried to deflect with all sorts of excuses. She was feeling neglected. It was just a fling, and the classic line, "You never pay attention to me anymore." I could hardly believe what I was hearing. How could she justify this? She was lying through her teeth, throwing out emotional grenades like they were confetti. Each excuse made my blood boil further. I felt like I was in some twisted game where the rules had changed overnight. I was angry, humiliated, and utterly heartbroken. As her excuses poured out, all I could think about was Jake, my so-called friend. How could he betray me like this? How could she? I felt like a fool. The marriage I thought we had was crumbling before my eyes, and I knew I had to make a decision. In that moment, I wasn't just reeling from betrayal. I was plotting revenge. I wasn't going to be the victim in this story. No, I would outplay them both. Stay tuned. There's so much more to unfold. After the confrontation with Lisa, I felt like I was walking through a fog. I told myself I wouldn't let her lies define me, but it was hard. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw the messages on her phone. The words echoed in my mind. "Can't wait to see you tonight." It stung, and I was filled with a mix of anger and determination. I had to take control of this situation. The next few days were a blur. Lisa tried to act like nothing had happened, flashing her fake smiles and making me dinners that tasted like cardboard. She had the audacity to tell me she wanted to work on our marriage, but it was all just a cover-up. I could see right through her. I was done with the lies, the gaslighting, and the emotional manipulation. I decided to take a different approach. Instead of wallowing in despair, I wanted to take charge of my life and ensure I came out on top in this twisted game. I started by diving deep into my gaming channel, focusing more than ever on creating content that could resonate with my audience. It became my escape, my way to channel all the anger and hurt into something productive. I posted a video titled "Getting Back to My Roots," where I talked about leveling up in life and gaming. I started sharing my story in a roundabout way through my gameplay, my honest take on relationships and betrayal seemed to resonate with my viewers. Slowly but surely, I was building a connection with a community that appreciated my authenticity. What surprised me was how supportive my friends became, friends I hadn't heard from in a while. They reached out, offering encouragement and even suggesting collaborations. I was reminded that I wasn't alone in this. I had people who cared about me and wanted to see me succeed. Meanwhile, Lisa continued her manipulative ways. She thought she could pull the wool over my eyes by acting all sweet, organizing date nights, trying to cook my favorite meals. But I was no longer that naive guy who would fall for her theatrics. I had a plan, and it involved making sure she felt the consequences of her actions. I started hanging out more with my gaming buddies, including Jake. I acted casual, but inside I was boiling. Seeing him interact with Lisa made my skin crawl. He was arrogant and smug, even as I played it cool. I made a point to keep my interactions with him friendly, but every laugh and joke felt like a dagger to my heart. I knew I had to get back at them both. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my power. I began to craft a narrative that would not only expose their betrayal, but also elevate my status in the gaming community. I wanted to show them that I could rise above their petty actions and become someone they'd regret crossing. I started working on a project that would turn the tables. I contacted a few online gaming news outlets and pitched the idea of a series about gaming and relationships. I wanted to highlight the importance of trust and loyalty, using my personal experience as a backdrop. My story wasn't just about heartbreak. It was a lesson for everyone who might find themselves in a similar situation. As the project developed, I noticed my audience growing. I gained followers who appreciated my honesty and vulnerability. The more I shared, the more I felt empowered. I was no longer just Mark, Lisa's husband. I was Mark, the gamer who wouldn't be broken by betrayal. One night, as I was editing a video, Lisa walked in and saw my progress. She tried to act uninterested but couldn't hide the curiosity in her eyes. "What are you working on?" she asked, her tone dripping with feigned innocence. "Just a little project about relationships in gaming," I replied, keeping my expression neutral. "You know, the importance of honesty and loyalty." Her face turned pale and I knew I struck a chord. I was ready to unveil the truth and it felt good to see her squirm. But I wasn't done yet. I still had one more piece of the puzzle to put in place before I executed the final plan. I wanted the world to see their betrayal, and I would make sure they knew just how well I would outplay them both in life. All I needed was the right moment to strike. Stay tuned. The days turned into weeks as I continued to focus on my gaming channel and the project that was starting to take shape. I was pouring my heart into it, crafting content that I hoped would resonate with others. I wanted to be the voice for those who felt betrayed, misunderstood, or marginalized in their relationships. I was tired of being the victim, and my growing audience was a source of strength. As I posted more videos and gained traction, the whispers around my gaming community began to grow. People started to recognize my struggle, and I found support in unexpected places. Other gamers began sharing their own experiences with betrayal, and it felt like I was building a mini movement. I was no longer just sharing my story, I was empowering others to share theirs. Meanwhile, Lisa was still trying to play the part of the devoted wife. She would call me during the day, asking sweetly about my progress and even pretending to be interested in my videos. Every time she did that, a wave of disgust washed over me. I would smile and chat with her, but inside I was plotting my next moves. I had to make sure she understood that I wouldn't just forgive and forget. Then there was Jake. I kept him close but never let on that I knew about his affair with Lisa. I played the part of the oblivious friend, hanging out with him, sharing laughs and gaming together. It was surreal, smiling at a guy who had betrayed me so deeply. I was waiting for the right moment to let him know that I wasn't going to be the punching bag. This twisted game. One night we had a gaming session planned. I told Jake to come over for some multiplayer action. My heart raced with anticipation. It was the perfect setup for what I'd been planning. As we settled in, I could feel the tension in the air. I knew I had to be strategic. My revenge needed to be executed flawlessly. We played for a few hours, the usual banter flowing between us. I was acting like everything was normal, but inside I was gearing up for the confrontation. After a few rounds, I decided to bring up the topic of relationships casually. I wanted to see how Jake would react, and I had a strong feeling he wouldn't expect what was coming. "So, how's it going with Lisa?" I asked, keeping my tone light. He chuckled. "Oh, you know, she's great. We have a lot of fun together. She keeps things interesting." I could barely suppress my smirk. "Interesting, huh? Must be nice to have someone who keeps you on your toes." Jake grinned, completely oblivious. "Yeah, you could say that." I let the silence hang in the air for a moment. I leaned back in my chair, watching him squirm slightly under my gaze. "You know, I've been working on this project about loyalty and relationships. It's pretty revealing. Maybe you should check it out when it's done." His expression shifted, curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" I leaned forward, locking eyes with him. "Let's just say that betrayal has a way of coming to light. People can't hide their true selves forever." For a moment, I thought I'd miscalculated. The tension in the room was palpable, and I could see the gears turning in his mind. Was he finally putting two and two together? He fidgeted with his controller, the bravado slipping away. "Sounds like you've got some juicy content lined up," he said, trying to sound casual but failing miserably. I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, you have no idea. It's going to be eye-opening." The evening dragged on, and Jake tried to act like nothing was wrong, but I could see the doubt creeping into his eyes. I was savoring every moment, knowing I was planting the seeds of paranoia in his mind. He'd soon learn just how well I was going to play this game. As the night wound down, Jake left with a lingering unease. I could almost hear the cogs turning in his head as he walked out the door. I knew I had him where I wanted him. The next phase of my revenge was in motion, and I was ready to unleash the truth. Now, it was time for Lisa to face the music. She had been living in a fantasy world, thinking she could have her cake and eat it too. I was done playing the innocent husband. It was time to show her that I was no longer the pushover she thought I was. I decided to capture the essence of my experience on video, detailing the journey of betrayal and resilience. I wanted to reveal my story, but I wanted to add a twist. I would drop hints about Lisa and Jake, making it vague enough for my viewers to speculate without directly naming names. I wanted them to see how betrayal can disrupt lives and how to rise above it. When I finally uploaded the video, I was filled with a sense of satisfaction. It was a cathartic release, and I knew it would get people talking. The comments section exploded with reactions and personal stories. My audience was rallying around me, and I felt an overwhelming sense of community. And just like that, I was no longer just Mark. I was a man who had transformed pain into power. I had turned my heartbreak into a narrative that not only resonated with others, but also solidified my standing in the gaming community. But I still had one final showdown to orchestrate. I needed to confront Lisa again, and this time I wouldn't back down. I wanted her to understand the depth of my resolve. Stay tuned. The climax is approaching. With the video uploaded and the support pouring in, I felt invincible. I was on a roll, navigating life with a newfound sense of purpose. But I knew that the real battle lay ahead. The confrontation with Lisa needed to be strategic. I had to make it impactful. I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions, to understand that I wasn't just her husband. I was a man who could rise from the ashes of betrayal. That weekend, Lisa had planned a quiet dinner at home, trying to rekindle the semblance of our relationship. She lit candles, cooked a nice meal, and put on that fake smile she had been perfecting. I played along, acting as if I was somewhat interested in her effort. But deep down, I was waiting for the right moment to drop the bomb. As we sat down to eat, she started talking about her week, explaining away her absence with work-related excuses. It was like she had forgotten that I had seen the texts. I let her ramble on while I steeled myself for what was to come. Once the plates were cleared and we were sitting on the couch, I decided it was time. You know, Lisa, I've been thinking a lot about our relationship lately. I started, keeping my tone even. Her eyes lit up, and for a brief moment I could see hope in her expression. Really? That's great, Mark. I think we should work on things too. I raised my hand to stop her. Let me finish. I've been thinking about trust, loyalty, and how easily those things can shatter. Her smile faded, replaced by a look of apprehension. What do you mean? Let's not pretend here. I know about you. And Jake, I've seen the texts, the messages. You can't act like everything's fine when you've been lying to me, I said, letting the words sink in. The color drained from her face. For a moment she looked like a deer caught in headlights. Mark, no, let me talk. I've put up with your bullshit for too long. You think I haven't noticed how distant you've been? How you've been sneaking around while I was working on my passion, all the while you were with my so-called friend. She opened her mouth to speak, but I waved my hand again. I don't want to hear your excuses. You've made your choices, and now I'm making mine. I'm not the same guy who would just roll over and accept your lies. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her, but I quickly remembered how she'd treated me, how she'd betrayed my trust. I didn't mean for it to happen, she pleaded. It was just a mistake. A mistake, I echoed, incredulous. A mistake is forgetting to take the trash out. What you did is a betrayal of our vows. You took my trust and threw it away like it meant nothing. The tears streamed down her face, but my heart was hardening. I wasn't going to let her manipulate my emotions anymore. I've spent the last few weeks reclaiming my life. I've turned my pain into something powerful, and I'm not going to let you drag me back into your web of lies. I took a deep breath, letting the weight of my words settle. I've been sharing my story online, and it seems people are responding. They want to learn from my experience. Maybe I have something to offer the world after all. Lisa looked taken aback. You've been sharing our business. What are you talking about? I smiled, a mix of satisfaction and resolve flooding through me. Oh, I didn't mention names, but you can be sure that your story isn't going unnoticed. Like I said, betrayal doesn't stay hidden forever. The realization hit her hard. I could see it in her eyes, the fear of exposure, the dread of facing the consequences of her actions. She tried to regain control, but the facade was crumbling. Mark, please don't do this. We can fix this. I love you, she said, desperation creeping into her voice. I shook my head. You love the idea of me, Lisa. You love the life we built together, but you don't love me, not the way I deserve to be loved. A bitter silence hung between us. I could feel the tension thickening like the calm before a storm. I had taken the reins back, and I was determined not to let go. There was no going back now. Let's face reality, I continued. I'm not the man you can manipulate anymore. This isn't just about you and me anymore. I'm building something bigger than our broken marriage, and I will not let you ruin it. Lisa tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. I think it's best we take a break. I need to figure out what's next for me, and you need to figure out what you truly want. As she wept, I felt an unexpected sense of relief wash over me. I had stood my ground, and for the first time in a long while, I felt empowered. I was ready to move forward without her dragging me down. In the days that followed, I focused intensely on my channel, and the response from my viewers continued to overwhelm me. I felt liberated. I was no longer a victim of betrayal. I was reclaiming my narrative and charting a course for a brighter future. But I still had Jake to deal with. I needed him to know that I was aware of his betrayal, and he was about to receive a lesson he wouldn't forget. The final act of my revenge was yet to come, and I was eagerly anticipating it. Stay tuned. The showdown is just around the corner. The days rolled on, each one blending into the next as I continued to refine my gaming channel and engage with my audience. The support I received was overwhelming, and I felt like I was gaining not just followers, but a community. I was no longer just Mark, Lisa's husband. I was Mark, a content creator with a story that resonated with many. But despite my newfound focus, I couldn't shake the anticipation of what would come next. Jake was still out there, and I knew I had to confront him. I needed him to understand that he was not just some faceless character in my life. He was a player who had made a significant move, and now it was my turn to respond. I started plotting how best to approach the situation. I could confront him directly, but that felt too predictable. Instead, I wanted to make my point in a way that he wouldn't forget, something that would serve as a reminder of the consequences of betrayal. The opportunity came about a week later during our regular gaming night. I invited Jake over under the guise of wanting to hang out and play some new releases. I wanted to create an atmosphere of ease before I dropped the bombshell. When he arrived, I acted like everything was perfectly fine, even sharing some laughs as we settled in with our controllers. I caught him glancing at me as if trying to gauge my mood. Unbeknownst to him, I was bubbling with anticipation, ready to unleash the consequences of his actions. As we played, I felt the tension build. I was waiting for the right moment to pivot the conversation. After a particularly intense round, I turned to him, my voice casual. "You know, Jake, I've been thinking a lot about loyalty and friendships lately." He chuckled, rolling his eyes. "You're getting deep, man. What's brought this on?" I leaned back, letting my expression take on a more serious note. "It's just interesting how quickly things can change. One minute you think you know someone, and the next they're betraying you." His laughter died down, replaced with a flicker of concern. "What do you mean?" I took a breath, letting the weight of the moment settle in the air. "I mean, it's funny how some people can pretend to be your friends on the surface, but are really just waiting for the chance to stab you in the back." Jake's face paled as realization hit him. "Mark, what are you talking about?" I leaned forward, my gaze sharp. "You don't need me to spell it out for you, do you? You think I didn't know about you and Lisa? You think I wouldn't notice the way you two were sneaking around?" His eyes widened, and I could see the panic rising within him. "Dude, I thought we were past that. I didn't mean to hurt you," he stammered, his bravado crumbling. "Didn't mean to hurt me," I echoed, incredulous. "You actively chose to betray both me and Lisa's trust. You didn't just stumble into this, you made a decision." I watched as he squirmed under the weight of my words. "I thought you and Lisa were just having issues. I didn't want to interfere, but it just happened," he said weakly. "It just happened," I scoffed. "That's a hell of an excuse, Jake. You and I both know that's not how it works. You made a conscious choice to pursue my wife. You didn't think about the consequences, about how it would affect our friendship or how it would destroy my trust." "I'm sorry, man," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sorry doesn't cut it. This isn't just some game we can reset. There's no do-over here. You've lost a friend and you've lost respect. You think I'm going to forget about this? You've put yourself on a path of destruction, and I'm not going to let you just walk away unscathed." He fell silent, the realization of what he'd done beginning to sink in. I could see the regret plastered all over his face, but it was too little, too late. "Here's the deal, Jake," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not going to lash out and ruin your life, but I want you to remember this moment. I want you to think about your actions every time you play a game or look at your friends. You've burned a bridge and there's no going back." I stood up, taking a moment to let the words resonate. "From this point forward, I'm done with you. I'm cutting ties. I won't be your friend anymore, and I hope you think long and hard about what you've done." Silence filled the room, thick and heavy. I didn't wait for him to respond. I walked him to the door, feeling a sense of finality wash over me. This was closure. I had taken a stand, and I wouldn't let betrayal dictate my life any longer. When he left, I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I had confronted the betrayal head-on, and while it didn't erase the hurt, it was a step toward reclaiming my life. Over the next few weeks, I continued to focus on my channel, pouring my energy into content creation. The community I had built was thriving, and I found solace in sharing my story with others. I was determined to turn my pain into purpose, and I was doing just that. But even as I moved forward, I knew there would always be lingering memories of the betrayal. It wasn't just about Lisa and Jake anymore. It was about my journey to healing and self-discovery. I was ready to embrace the next chapter of my life, one that would be filled with growth, lessons learned, and the strength to rise above. Stay tuned for the final reflections on this journey, where I'll share the lessons I've learned and the path I hope to take moving forward. As time passed, I found myself diving deeper into the gaming community, and the support I received continued to overwhelm me. My channel was flourishing, and more than just numbers, I was building genuine connections with viewers who resonated with my story. Every comment, every like, and every share reminded me that I was not alone. I spent hours crafting videos that not only showcased my gaming skills but also shared my journey of betrayal, resilience, and personal growth. I wanted to turn my pain into a catalyst for positive change, and with each upload, I felt more empowered. I was determined to create a space where others could come and share their stories, knowing they would be supported. One evening, as I was preparing to record a new video, I paused to reflect on how far I'd come. I was no longer the man who had been blindsided by his wife's infidelity. I had transformed into someone who took control of his life and turned a painful experience into a source of strength. I thought about Lisa and Jake, and while their betrayal had initially shattered me, it ultimately propelled me to new heights. I had learned some hard lessons. Trust is fragile and loyalty is earned, not given. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but I realized that sometimes people will disappoint you, and that's not a reflection of your worth. I was learning to value myself and to be proud of who I was becoming. In the following weeks, I received numerous messages from viewers who thanked me for sharing my story. They told me how my experiences helped them navigate their own relationship struggles. Knowing that I could make a difference in someone else's life was a feeling I hadn't anticipated, and it fueled my passion even further. But part of me still felt a lingering anger toward Lisa and Jake. I wanted to confront them again, not out of a desire for reconciliation, but to assert my newfound strength. So I reached out to Lisa. I suggested we meet for coffee, and much to my surprise, she agreed. When we met, I was struck by how different the dynamic felt. She walked in looking nervous, and her demeanor was one of apprehension rather than the confidence she had previously exuded. I could see she was trying to gauge if I was the same person she had manipulated before. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, her voice wavering. I nodded. "I wanted to talk about everything that happened. I think it's important to clear the air." She fidgeted with her hands, and I could sense the tension as we sat down. "Mark, I'm really sorry for everything. I've done a lot of thinking, and I regret how I treated you. I never wanted to hurt you." I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "You say that now, but your actions showed a lack of respect for our marriage and for me as a person. You made choices that hurt both of us, and I need you to understand the real impact of what you did." Tears welled up in her eyes, but I wasn't there to comfort her. "I've moved on, Lisa. I'm in a better place now, and I'm rebuilding my life. But I want you to know that what you did won't be forgotten. Betrayal has consequences, and I won't allow myself to be a victim of your choices anymore." She nodded, visibly shaken. "I know I can't undo the past, but I want you to know I've been trying to change. I've been seeing a therapist and working on myself." I appreciated her willingness to acknowledge her flaws, but I knew I couldn't let her back into my life. "That's good to hear. Growth is essential. Just remember that growth requires honesty and accountability. I hope you can find your way." After that, we parted ways without any further confrontation. I left feeling a weight had been lifted. I didn't need closure from her. I had already found it within myself. In the months that followed, I kept building my channel and connecting with my audience. The experiences I shared were met with empathy and understanding, and I knew I was making an impact. My content began to evolve. I incorporated discussions about mental health, relationships, and resilience into my gaming videos. I also started a series where I invited viewers to share their own stories, creating a platform for community support. It was rewarding to see others find strength in their vulnerabilities and take steps toward healing. Through it all, I learned that while betrayal can bring immense pain, it can also serve as a powerful catalyst for growth. I discovered the importance of self-worth, the value of honesty, and the strength that comes from vulnerability. As I reflected on this turbulent chapter of my life, I realized that I wouldn't trade my experiences for anything. They shaped me into the person I am today, a man who stands strong in the face of adversity, a man who refuses to let betrayal define his narrative. To anyone going through a similar struggle, I want you To know you have the power to take control of your life. Your story is not over, it's just the beginning. Embrace the journey, learn from the pain, and rise above. You are stronger than you think, and the best is yet to come.